Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I'm in studio with Lisa Ling today.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be watching your show, This Is Life with Lisa Ling.
Thank you.
And I wanted to talk to you about Season 4, which just started airing. So what are you most looking forward to for people to see in Season 4?
Well, I think that our show is a pretty unique show in that we get a chance to explore different subcultures and worlds that exist in our own backyard. And this season is no different from other seasons in that we cover such a diverse array of topics. But I definitely do things that are a little more revealing this season. But I also think that we are covering a lot of things that are just really relatable to people right now.
Yeah. What do you define as a subculture, and how do you choose the subcultures that you look into for each season?
Well, my team and I are constantly pouring through media. Like, I try to read as much as I can, and we'll put together an exhaustive list of about 20 or 30 topics, and then CNN will ultimately pick the 8 that we go to explore. And I would describe subculture as just different groups of people who might be living a little bit differently than the mainstream. And it's been, for me, as someone who started reporting overseas at the beginning of my journalism career, it's been so exciting to feel on many occasions like I was in a foreign country or somewhere different, because the worlds that I was exploring were so different from mine. And I think that goes to show that there's so much richness and diversity that exists here. And my hope that, given these politically charged times, this dividedness that we are experiencing in this country, that people might come to our show with an open mind and just be prepared to get to know people in a different way. You know, people that you might have spent a lot of your time judging or having an opinion about, and be propelled to think a little bit differently. You know, I feel like we need to do that more in this country right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of us probably grew up with talk shows where there was kind of an exploitative nature to seeing like some sort of a subculture or people who were kind of outside of the fringes of normal society. And it's really nice to be able to kind of take more of an open-minded approach.
Yeah, and not all of the people that we profile are on the fringes. In fact, so many of the people that we profile could be people who live next door to you or are in your own family. And really our goal is to just kind of create a deeper understanding of people who inhabit the same space as we do, you know, as individuals. And I think that people have just really responded to it really well over the years. And again, just given these really tense times, I think that having meaningful dialogue is something that's really important to do.
Do you get a lot of reaction from the public about shows?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's, you know, when people see me on the street, not a day goes by when people don't come up to me and approach me about the show. And I'm not a celebrity, so people don't come and they, you know, go crazy and want autographs. They say things like, "I love your show. I never knew about this or that." And that, to me, is really fulfilling because, again, we're giving people an opportunity to just know more about other people. And I think that I've become a better person as a result of knowing more about my fellow Americans.
Yeah. I want to get back to that a little bit because I want to talk specifically about the episode that just aired.
Okay.
But but first I wanted to ask about when CNN greenlights a topic for you. Are you ever hesitant? You know, it's maybe something you discussed in the meeting, but then they actually say, "Yes, we want you to do that." Are you a little like, "Oh no, now I actually have to do it"?
There haven't been. I haven't felt that way, but there certainly have been times when we've pitched something, CNN has green-lit it, and then we realize, you know what, I think it's going to be impossible to get those people to talk openly. We exert every effort, but sometimes it's just too difficult. But we've covered everything from, outlaw biker clubs to, the heroin crisis in Chicago and so much of this country. We've spent time with people in the mostly Mormon state of Utah who are addicted to opioids. We have spent time with people who work in the sex industry. So I think one of the reasons why people agree to talk to us on our show is they know that we're not going to be exploitative with them, and that we're going to give them a chance to tell their stories and tell us why they do what they do and believe what they believe.
So let's talk a little bit about sexual healing, the episode that just aired.
Yeah.
This one was very personal for you. You always have a personal reaction to your subjects, but this time you kind of like dove in a little bit farther.
A little more than I ever thought I would. Yes. So we profiled two women who have very different styles, who are kind of in the business of sexual healing. One a tantra expert, and another a surrogate partner. And surrogate partners are therapists who become physical with their clients. In many cases, they will go as far as to have sex with their clients. And one of those experts said to me something really profound that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is if you have any deficiencies in your sex life at all, if you're not intimate with your partner, if you have body image issues, if you have experienced any sexual trauma, it affects every aspect of your life. And I think that applies to everyone. I mean, it's even though it has kind of a salacious title in sexual healing, it's relatable to everyone. I mean, I'm someone who, I've been married for a long time. I'd like to know how to, spice things up more with my husband. And I think that when you've been married for a long time, and if you aren't as regular as you were, that does affect different aspects of your life. And I don't know anyone who doesn't have body image issues. And so while that may affect your sex life, it also affects every aspect of your life. And to try and overcome that is something that I think people would be really willing and want to know, how to be able to do. And so there was one exercise that the surrogate therapist did with her client. And that exercise is that both of them would stand in front of a mirror completely naked, and they would talk about things they liked about their body and things they disliked. And her client happened to be a young man who had pretty severe cerebral palsy. So, a lot of deformities in his body. And as they were doing this exercise, I watched this young man, standing there talking so confidently about things that he liked and disliked. And he was so brave to do that. And as I was watching, I just thought, if he can do this, why am I so hung up about my body? Like, I wished at that moment that I could feel as confident talking about my body, because at the end of the day, our bodies are our bodies. And we're all beautiful in different ways. And so, unbeknownst to my team, I just felt compelled to take off all my clothes with these two people.
Participate in the exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I by no means set off that day, thinking that I was going to take off all my clothes, but I felt compelled to do it. And after I did it, of course, my heart was about to beat out of my body, and I felt so nervous as I was taking my clothes off. But after 10 minutes, the three of us are standing there naked. I just came to realize, why are we all so hung up about our bodies? Maybe if we didn't feel those insecurities, we wouldn't feel the need to be sexually healed. That some of those blockages in our lives might not have to be. And so that was it was one of those moments that I felt I had to do, and I'm so glad I did it, because it did kind of change. It did affect those blockages that I had in my head.
You definitely felt a change from
I did
after you did that.
I did, and I did this 3 months after having a baby, my second child, and I was having a lot of insecurities about that. But I birthed two human beings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why should I feel inhibited about how much my breasts are sagging? You know what I mean? I nourished life with these breasts. And I think it's a shame that women, especially women who've had children, feel like they have to feel so ashamed of their bodies. My God, they performed something miraculous, you know?
Yeah.
And it took that experience to make me really realize what a beautiful thing that I achieved.
That's lovely. You know, it seems like a lot of problems that women have, just from a woman's perspective, is authenticity, because we're trying so hard to be people that we're not. And I guess that goes for men as well. You're trying to overcompensate for some sort of insecurity or hidden feeling or shame. Do you think that your subjects are going closer towards authenticity? Do you see that a lot? Or do you also see the opposite, that people are kind of joining some sort of a movement out of trying to not be themselves?
I think that the people that we profile are pretty authentic with us, which is why I think that if you watch, you know, our show about polyamorous relationships, or about America's first Muslims who are in the African American community, I think that you will experience people who are talking about their lives and their experiences in a non-exploitative way. And I don't know other shows that would devote that kind of time to allowing people to really tell their stories authentically. I really don't. If there are those shows that exist, I'd love to know about them, but I think that's one of the reasons why people have felt comfortable coming on our show, and in some cases divulging with us things that they haven't even told their friends and family.
If you could affect one government policy change, knowing all that you know now about the nature of sex or drug addiction or you know, gun control, like all of the subjects that you've looked into, like what would be important for you? Like what kind of policy change would you like to see?
Oh, Mariah, that's a tough one, because there are so many things. Just given how on the ground I've been in the midst of a lot of these issues. I would say first off, just because I just finished working on a digital series for CNN called This Is Sex, I would say that we need more comprehensive sex education in schools, because in the states that have an abstinence-only mandate, we see the highest rates of teen pregnancy and STDs. And we spend $16 billion on STDs, treating them a year. That's an outstanding number, and I think one of those reasons is because young people are becoming sexually active without knowing about the consequences of risky behavior. I know I was one of them. I knew so little as a young person because no one ever talked to me about sex. You know, it was something that I was just told not to do. And so when I did become sexually active, I think I know I engaged in risky behavior that left me open to any number of things. You know, so that's something as a mother that I would really work hard to try and convince our legislators to consider.
What are the stigmatizing subjects that really strike you as unnecessarily complicated?
Well, sex is a big one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for me, for so many years, it was difficult for me to even ask questions of people about sex. You know, I could stare down, you know, Pakistani generals about nuclear proliferation, or, you know, drug traffickers about, you know, about illegal drug trafficking. But when it came to sex-related topics, I became this sort of like timid 8-year-old. And that's because we don't talk openly about sex, and it's stigmatized, and it's politicized, even though it's part of the biological, it's part of human biology. It's the most natural thing, yet somehow there's so much taboo surrounding us. And I hope, for one, to help to be able to normalize the conversation around sex.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's, you kind of follow the lead of your partner, but then you also don't want your partner to know what you're thinking. So it's like a catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
And that's just like kind of that's pretty basic and normal. And then there's all of the other things that can happen in a lifetime too.
But I just think that relationships and people are so much healthier the more they know. I mean, it's not a shock that there are so many unhealthy relationships, and that, for example, you know, we spend so much on STDs because we don't talk about these things openly. And, you know, to me, I feel like it's an epidemic that we need to figure out how to deal with it. And as the mother of a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old girl, I am ready to have those conversations, because now with social media, kids are exposed to so much more, so much earlier, and I want to be the one who has those conversations with my kids. I don't want her to see things on social media and learn that way.
Has your 4-year-old said anything to you yet that has caused concern, where you're like,
Oh,
I'm ready to start talking to you?
Oh yeah, she is constantly asking about how babies are made. She's 4, and she talks about having crushes in school. I mean, she's a very precocious little girl, just like I was when I was a kid. And I know I would have benefited as a kid from more comprehensive sex ed. So I'm going to give that to her. But, you know, I'm a mother who is willing and wants to have those conversations. A lot of parents don't, because a lot of parents are afraid to have them. A lot of parents are in denial that kids are exposed to this stuff. And I think that we need to have an awakening here.
What about the drug conversation that you'll need to have with your kids? Are you prepared to talk to them about?
Yeah, I'm nervous about it, but I want my kids to be able to feel like they can talk to me about anything. Believe me, I've thought long and hard about whether I will talk to my kids about, you know, what I did. You know, I've certainly experimented with things, and I think honesty is the best policy. And far be it for me to tell her not to do something when I have done it. And so I just want it to be a really substantive, reciprocal conversation that I have with my kids.
Do you follow up or keep up with any of your subjects after you're done with your episodes?
Oh yeah. I give most people that I profile my cell phone number, because again, they're talking to me about things that are deeply personal, and for me to just say, okay, thanks for the story, I'm out of here, would be so inconsiderate and irresponsible. And I want people who are really sharing deeply held things to be able to feel like they can talk to me about things. So yeah, I follow up, I stay in contact with a lot of people. Not everyone, because it would be impossible, but a surprising number of people. I mean, I have people from episodes that I worked on 5 years ago who text me regularly and call me. And I consider a lot of those people my friends, because we've shared things with each other in some cases. I've shared a lot about my own life with a lot of these people that you know, not a lot of people share with me, and that I share, you know, they share with other people.
Do you have any stories that come to mind from your kind of follow-ups? Like, for example, I was a little concerned about how the vets were doing who took ayahuasca. You know, are there any stories you want to share about anybody who's now still in touch with you?
Yeah, I wish I could report positively about everyone, but sadly I can't. And there was a family we profiled for the Oprah show, almost an entire family that was addicted to heroin. The mother, years later, OD'd, but the patriarch of the family, Mike, is someone who texts me all the time. And I'm happy to report that some other people that I've reported on. I did a piece last year about heroin addiction in Chicago, and I'm thrilled to report that all 3 of the young people we profiled in that piece are doing well right now.
That's great.
One of them has been in recovery for 11 months, one of them for 6 months, and one has just gotten out of jail and has been sober for about 2 or 3 months. So, and those are people that I corresponded with their parents about how they're doing. So, you know, sadly, I wish I could report positive things for everyone that we profile, but, you know, but I can't. But those are 3, you know, positive stories right now, and I'm wishing the best for them.
That's great. What do you think about, just talking about your company, you know, CNN, your employer, what do you think about how the president deals with CNN, or how he talks about CNN? I just wanted to hear your opinion about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hugely offended, and I'm not even a breaking news reporter, but just because someone reports something that you don't like does not justify you characterizing them as being illegitimate. I find that to be incredibly dangerous when you are assailing reputable, bona fide news outlets. Now, that's not to say that CNN or the New York Times or the Washington Post doesn't make mistakes from time to time. I mean, we are, you know, in a very rapid news cycle, but to consistently characterize these outlets as fake news, to me, completely screams fascism. Like, I think that is incredibly dangerous.
Do you have any goals to accomplish for the future? Like, what are you looking forward to doing in the next year, the next couple of years? I'd like to know where you're headed.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to continue doing this kind of storytelling. Because I just think it's necessary. You know, in the midst of all of this noise, you know, we have a show that allows for conversation, and allows for, you know, people to kind of think a little bit. And I hope to be able to do that for as long as people will hire me.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing more stories from you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right. This is Life with Lisa Ling.